The Mishnah likes to deal with edge cases, with boundary cases. We see this, we've seen this very frequently. The Mishnah will always explore the very limits. And we mentioned in the last Mishnah the question of someone who's deceased. And in fact, of the ninth chapter of Bava Kama is going to circle around these questions of what happens if somebody dies in the middle of restitution. And in order to understand what is going on, we actually need to go back to a pasuk, to a verse in Numbers that we haven't looked at yet. And we're dealing with restitution after a theft or a fraud or a breach of trust. And the Torah makes the provision. If someone has got no goel, that's a redeemer, but it means a kinsman, no relative. If someone has no relative to whom restitution can be made, ha'asham hamushav lashem lakohen, the amount which is paid shall go to God and to the Kohen. In other words, the priest gets the restitution. So the halacha is restitution has to be made. We saw it in Vayikra. We saw it in the verses from Vayikra. Let me just find the verse for you. Here it is. If anything, let's just find the verse here. If someone has sinned, and he's guilty, we're in chapter 5 of Leviticus, of Vayikra. He has to give back what he's stolen. And this, any kind of fraud, the same rule applies to theft or fraud or breach of trust. The first thing we have to do is we have to give it back. We have to give it back. So the question we're asking is, well, okay, if this person has no kinsman, who do we pay it to? And the Torah in Bamidbar says we give it to the priests. And what is this person? What is this person that has no kinsman? Rashi comments there, Shemeta tovea shehishpio ve'ein lo yorshim. Rashi says, this means someone who has no kinsman. This means that the claimant, the person who's due restitution, has died and has no heirs, no family. No family. That's what we mean by ve'im ein la'ish goel. He doesn't have a kinsman. He's died. He has no heir. And the Gemara will, of course, ask, well, okay, what kind of person could die with no heirs? Because everybody has family. So if he had no children, then his brothers would inherit, or his father would inherit, or his sister would inherit, or at some point, there's going to be some relative who's going to inherit. And the Gemara answers that the person who has no kinsman, no relative, that must be a convert. It's someone who's separated himself or herself off from their family connections, and they've come to live with the people of Israel, and they are considered as if those birth connections are considered to be broken. So they're considered on the eyes of the halacha to have no kinsman. And so the Mishnah now explains. So now we can jump into the Mishnah. Once we've got these ideas straight in our heads, the Mishnah now explains, Hagozel et hager v'nishbalo, someone stole from a convert and swore to him. And we've already said, by the way, when the Mishnah talks about swearing, v'nishbalo, we mean swearing falsely. He swore that he didn't misappropriate the object. So he's stolen from this convert, umate, and he's died. That is, the convert died. So he's got to give back the money to the convert, but the convert's died in the meantime. What are we going to do? So the Mishnah continues, Harezeh mishalem keren v'chomesh lakohanim. He must repay the value and the added fifth, the fifth, which is 25%. He repays it to the priests. Ve'asham lamizbeach, and he brings the guilt offering to the altar. And the Mishnah now quotes our verse from B'midbar, ve'im ein la'ish go'el, if the person has no kinsman, etc., etc., etc. So, in other words, this person with no kinsman is interpreted by the Mishnah as a convert who was wronged, who was stolen from. And before restitution has been made, this poor convert actually dies. So what are we going to do? Well, we still need to make restitution. So we'll give it to the priests. Let's carry on the story. Hayama aleta kesef veta asha umate. He was bringing the money and the guilt offering. Ma'aleh, he was actually bringing it up. When we're bringing up, in the language of the Mishnah, we're bringing it to Jerusalem. So he's on his way to Jerusalem to bring the money and the guilt offering. And he dies. The thief dies. So now they're both parties have now deceased. Maybe the Mishnah is telling us something about, I don't know, the consequences of theft, possibly. Anyway, he's on his way to Jerusalem. He's got he's got what it takes to restore, and he dies. What are we going to do? Very interesting. The money's given to his sons. He's already in possession of the money. Now, he has to make restitution as an atonement. But the Mishnah is taking the view that, okay, he needs to atone, but his sons don't need to after his death. After his death, the atonement is irrelevant. And of course, the money was already in his possession. We've learned already that the thief actually takes ownership of the object he stole. That's why he's responsible, for example, if it creates damage. So the money's going to be given to his sons. What about the guilt offering? The guilt offering is already designated as a guilt offering. It's hekdesh. It's been marked as a holy object. Well, we can't just give that away. So the guilt offering is put out to pasture until it suffers a blemish. We've seen this before with offerings that can't be offered. We put them out we can't use it, we can't kill it, we can't benefit from it. So we just put it out to pasture until it suffers a blemish. And then, of course, it naturally can't be offered. So at that point, we can sell it. It can be sold. And its money shall be just made into a voluntary offering. So its money is just added to the money box for voluntary offerings. That's if he dies on the way. And maybe that's the simple thing, if he dies on the way. Let's carry on the story, because it can be more complicated. He gave the money to the men of the priestly watch. So he's now handed over the money to the priests. Seems like he hasn't handed over the guilt offering yet. And he's died. He dies. He hands it over, he dies the next day. Maybe he dies that very afternoon. The inheritors at that point can't recover the money anymore. The money's gone. Shenemar, and we're going to quote now from Numbers, just a couple of verses down. If a man gives something to a priest, it shall be his, i.e., it shall be the priest's. Once we've handed over money to the priests, we can't get it back. What about the guilt offering? Let's look at the guilt offering now. Natan et hakesev lioriv ve'asham lida yatsa. He gave the money to Yehoyariv. This is the name of the first watch. Va'asham lida, and he gave the guilt offering to Yedaya. So he gave the guilt offering to the second watch. Yatsa, he's fulfilled his obligation. Remember, the first thing he has to do is to make restitution. We can't bring the guilt offering until we've made restitution. We have to, it's a general principle, and the Rambam writes about this in the laws of Yom Kippur. We have to sort things out, if you like, person to person, before we can sort things out with God. So he first has to make restitution for what he sold before he can bring his guilt offering. So if he makes restitution first and brings a guilt offering second, he's fine. Doesn't work the other way around. Asham li yorahiv vechesef li da. He gives the guilt offering to Yehoyariv and the money to Yedaya. He gives the guilt offering first, and he restores the money later. What are we going to do? Im kayam ha'asham. If the guilt offering is still alive, if it's still there, yakrivehu b'nei Yedaya, the sons of Yedaya shall offer it, i.e., he gave the guilt offering first, but maybe he hasn't been killed yet. And then he made restitution. Well, the priests who accepted the restitution money should go off and find that offering and slaughter it. And then he's fine. Then he's fine. But in love, if that offering doesn't exist anymore, maybe it was already sacrificed. Otherwise, he's got to bring another guilt offering. He's got to bring another guilt offering. Someone who brings what he's stolen before he brings the guilt offering, the sacrifice, Yatsa, he's fine. He's fulfilled his obligation. If he tries to bring the guilt offering before he's restored what he stole, he hasn't fulfilled his obligation. We cannot think that we can somehow sort stuff out with God if we haven't sorted stuff out on earth here, in this world, in this reality. Really, really powerful message. Last Mishnah of the chapter. We've always said, by the way, the last Mishnah in the chapter is very significant. So there's a very powerful message here. And then the chapter concludes, Natanet ha-kerem velo natanet ha-chomesh. If he gave the principal, but not the extra fifth, the extra 25%, ein ha-chomesh ma'akev, the fifth doesn't seem to get in the way. So it's as if we have to restore what we've stolen before bringing the sacrifice. Seems as though bringing the extra 25%, the fine, the punitive damages we can sort out later, providing that we've actually restored what we stole.